The Shure Axient Digital system is considered to be one of the best, if not the best, wireless system available today. This system has been used for the Super Bowl, for Justin Timberlake and Jennifer Lopez on their tours. The Justin Timberlake tour had 80 different wireless going, so this was the system that they used on it. You can use up to 184 wireless at once. Of course, that depends on the wireless environment, but that's still insane. It has some really advanced interference detection and prevention. There are ways that you can get it where if you get interference by chance, it will automatically change to a new channel and it will send that to the receiver and the transmitter. There are many different transmitters, but the FD model in particular has frequency diversity, which means that it'll transmit on 2 channels simultaneously. By default, it has a 330 feet operating range. Quadversity Mode will increase that. This spans the entire UHF frequency bandwidth of 470 to 616 megahertz. If you need a mission critical wireless, this is the system for you. This is a very high-end and professional wireless system. This video will actually complete my Shure wireless system series that I was doing. I started off with their BLX system, which is their entry-level system, and it's wrapping up now with this one, their Axient Digital, which is their highest end wireless system. I know it's been a long time coming, and a lot of you have been asking for this video. So even if this isn't a system that you're going to pick up yourself, it is still interesting to find out what wireless systems are being used at the really high-end levels on professional tours and stuff like that. There is so much to go over in this video, so that's enough of the intro. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and let's go ahead and get started. Links for all the different configurations for the Axient Digital systems will be available down below in the description, so you can check these out for yourself. For the receivers, you have 2 different options. You have the 2-channel option in 1 U of rack space or the 4-channel option in 1 U of rack space. In this video, I'm going over the 4-channel one. And for this video, I am going to just leave it in the rack. And if you're interested in the rack that I use for this, I'll leave that down below in the description as well. For the transmitters, there are many options for mics, and I'm going to go over that later. But here's just a standard SM58, and then here's a body pack which can be used for guitar or with a lav mic or a headset mic or something like that. So you can see here on the front panels, I can go through each of the 4 different channels by pushing their corresponding buttons, and you can see it changes on the display screen over here. And then there's the master control wheel over here on the right side, and this gives me access to see 4 different display modes of what's going on the 4 different channels. You also do have a headphone knob over here, and you can see each of the 4 channels have their own sync port, and it syncs over infrared. I'll show you that here in a second. So here on the back, you can see that each of the 4 channels has their own XLR out as well as their own 1/4 inch out. And on top of that, each of them have their own dedicated mic and line switch, and they also each have their own ground lift on every channel, which is really nice. The IC power cable that is provided is a locking power cable, which is great because it means it won't get unplugged accidentally. You do have this power cascade right here, so you can loop power through to multiple different devices, and it does include an AC power protection fuse, which protects the power cascade from overloading. A lot of nice features. There's 4 different antennas back here. The A and B are the main ones, and that's what I'm going to connect. C and D can be used in 2 different ways. So it can be used to pass the RF signal from A and B to one additional receiver. But the cool thing about this is with the quad receiver, you can use what is called Quadversity Mode. That's also something I'm going to address later in the video. You do have 4 Ethernet ports in the back. 2 are for network control, so you can use it with Wireless Workbench, as well as for updating the firmware, which I did right before I started filming this video. And then 2 of the ports are using for Dante if you want to use Dante and keep it completely digital. And you also have the option to keep this completely digital with AES3, which I personally have never used myself, but you do have that as an option here. And in the above my pay grade section of this device is the word clock termination, which I had never heard of until I used this device. And looking in the manual, it didn't give me much more info. But you can see there's a lot of really nice features just in the hardware for this device. Okay, let's go over some initial setup stuff. So the first thing I like to do is to name each of the channels. You can see I've already named mine, but the way you do that is you can click any of the channel buttons. So let's go to this first one. You would think you would hit edit, but that's not actually correct. So I'm going to hit exit to get out of that. You're going to push in on the jog wheel right here, and you're going to go down to channel name. So I could change the name of this if I wanted to. And then when I'm done, I would push enter to save it. So I have all of these labeled with the correct names now. The next thing that you're going to do is scan for the best channel. So again, while you're on any of the channels, push the jog wheel and then scroll down to group scan. It will tell you to make sure that all your transmitters are off, so it's finding the best channel, and then you hit start and it's starting to scan. And you can see it tells you that group 5 has the most channels. It has 179 channels that are open. That's showing you how many wireless channels this system has. It's incredible. So if I switch it to group 4, that one has 68. Group 6 has 44, and so on and so forth. It will give you, by default, it will set it to whichever group has the most number of channels available. And I'm going to hit deploy, and all the lights blink. And it has deployed all of the clean frequencies to all 4 channels, which is awesome. The next step that you want to do is you want to sync the transmitters to the receiver. This is insanely easy. I'm going to push sync under this first one, and then I'm going to put the mic right in front of this infrared port right here. And you can see it says sync success. Now, this is something you're probably going to get right at the beginning. It's going to say unregistered unit. This is really cool. You can register a transmitter to the receiver. So you can see down here at the bottom, it says mic 1, which is what I've named it. I'll show you that here in a minute. And you can see if I turn off the mic, it'll say no transmitter. You can see down here at the bottom, it says what transmitter is connected to the receiver. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this last button right here. You can see it's lit up a little bit. I'm going to push that button, and that's going to go into the registered transmitters that are registered to this system. So I'm going to hit sync it again. And now you can see that this transmitter is now registered to this specific receiver. If I ever wanted to unlink it, I could always push the unlink button. Very nice feature. And it will come into play a little bit later. So now I'm just going to sync all the other ones. I'm going to sync another mic to channel 2, and I'm going to sync a body pack to channel 3 and a body pack to channel 4 using the infrared ports. And now they are all synced up and registered. The next step that you want to do is set the gain on each one of them. So say for the second one, on this microphone right here, I need to adjust the gain. The way I would do that is push the button, so channel 2, and then hit edit. And then right here on gain, I'm going to push in on the jog wheel and then adjust the gain level and set it accordingly. And you're going to want to do that on all 4 of the systems. And if I wasn't happy with the group and channel that it found, I can manually change that. I can manually change the group or the channel, or I can manually change the frequency to the exact frequency that I want. However, when I use this system, I always trust the scanning. It does a fantastic job. Up here on the front, you can see a few things. So you can see the strength of the RF on every single channel. So right now you can see it's all the way up, which means that it's good. If it goes up to the next one, it actually means that it's overloading, which is what you don't want. So this looks great. And each of them also have an audio meter. So you can also see if you're clipping or not. So going over some of the menu options in here, there is kind of the master one here under device configurations, but I'm going to start with the ones on the individual channels because I do find myself using those more. So I'm going to go to this first channel and I'm going to push in on the jog wheel, and that gets me into the channel menu. So under audio, you have the gain and mute. So you can adjust the gain here in this menu, but I already showed you how to do that, so I don't usually go into this menu. You can also mute the output from the receiver here. This is cool, the switch status. This shows you where each of the 4 channels have mic or line switch in the back and if they have a ground lift on. You might say, why? Well, that way you don't have to dig in the back of the rack. You can actually see what's going on up here on the front, which is really helpful. Also, your AS3 settings are also visible here. Very cool. I haven't seen that before. And one more thing, if you do need to switch to any of the channels, see the 1 right here. If I want to go to channel 2, I could push channel 2 and it'll switch to that, 3 and 4 and back to 1. On this menu, it doesn't really matter, but if I was on, the gain one or something like that, I could easily switch between the channels, which is a nice feature. Next up is the system gain. So this is also very helpful. You can see on channel 1, my mic offset is at 0. I will show you how to change that on the transmitter, and the gain is set to +5. So it'll tell me what the net gain is if I was going out 1/4 inch and if I was going out XLR. So 1/4 inch is +12 decibels, XLR is -8. So you can see the totals over here. Pretty nice feature. And you can see if I adjust the mic offset on the mic itself, and I will show you how to do that when I go over the transmitter section, but you can see it adjusts on the screen as well. So whatever I adjust on the mic gets sent to the receiver. Very helpful for sure. Next up, you have a tone generator. This can be very useful for determining any problems. So you can see I can set the level from -60 all the way up to unity, and you can see the audio meter going up on the channel. And you can also set the frequency to either 400 or 1000. That's definitely very helpful for problem solving and making sure that stuff's working. But again, you can do that from the transmitter, which I personally think is more useful. Meter overload hold. If you have this on, it will leave the red dot showing you that you clipped on a channel, and the only way to clear it is to push the button on that channel. Can be useful. I personally just leave it off. All right, moving on down to radio. So here you can change the group and channel and frequency manually if you want. Again, you can do that on the main screen for each channel, which is where I would do it. And if you don't understand what groups and channels are, I do have a video going over that, groups, channels, and bands. It's worth checking out. You can check that out by clicking up above or down below. Channel name we went over if you need to change the name of the channel. And again, you can change any of the channel names. Channel scan. So this is if you've already done a group scan. I know that I'm in group 5. I could change that, but 5 was the one it found that was the best. And I can either do find next, which will find the next channel that is available. So you can see it went from 596.725 up to 597.250. So that's the next one. I'm going to exit out of that. You can say find best, and it'll actually scan all of the channels in group 5, and it'll give you which one is the best. And you can see that it found 607.550. But I'm just going to hit exit. So if you are getting problems, you can just change the channel of the individual channel. So if you want to change one, do a channel scan. If you want to change all of them, do a group scan. Transmitters, this also gets you so that you can see which transmitters are synced up on each of the channels, just like we did before by hitting that 4th button down at the bottom. And you can add a total of 8 transmitters per channel. You can see some details on the transmitter, which is pretty cool. Definitely helpful for, sound guys to see if something's wrong without actually having to grab the mic. But this is all of the settings for the transmitter. IR presets, this is pretty cool. So when you do a sync, like we did earlier, what do you want to send to the transmitter? If it's set to no change, whatever the transmitter is set at, it will stay that way. So let's just go to the polarity or something like that, which is only available on the body pack. But if I always want to make sure that when I sync the body pack, it sends the polarity as positive, I could enable that here. Or if I want to set it as negative, I can enable that here. Or BP offset. If I always wanted to set it at a certain decibel level, it will send that to the transmitter. So that can definitely be helpful, but most of the time I leave this on no change and I want to control it from the transmitter. All right, next up we have the advanced. These are some of the coolest features in the Axient Digital for sure. We have the interference management, the frequency diversity, and the talk switch. These are some really cool features. Interference management, which I think is one of the best things about this system. I have the AD2 systems. There is the AD2X and the AD2XFD. If you have the basic AD2 systems, you basically have to set this to manual. I will go over what to do with the X systems later with automatic. But this is really nice. So what I'm going to do is on this first channel right here, my microphone is set to 530.250 megahertz. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up another wireless to transmit on basically the same frequency. I'm going to set it to 530.225 megahertz. I'm going to do it on a non-Shure system just so you can see this happens with any wireless that you use. I'm going to save it and you'll see what happens. On my screen, it says interference detected. And you can see that channel 1 is blinking red. That means that there is a problem here. That is what manual does. It will show you, hey, you have interference. And then I can select either find next or find the best channel. So I can click find next. It will go to the next channel, which in this case is 530.800 megahertz. And I could hit enter, and now it's transmitting on that frequency instead of the other one. I push sync and resync my transmitter. It's very nice that it gives you that interference. And that's actually what I do when I go to a show with these. If I turn them on, it'll tell me, hey, your channel that you're on is already taken. You need to scan. Very, very nice feature that it gives you interference detection. You can also set this to off. I don't know why you would ever want to. It's incredibly nice to know if you're getting interference. Now, automatic is something that only applies with the X and the XFD systems. So the transmitters that I have are just the AD series. I do not have any of the ADX or the ADXFD series. They do cost more than the standard models, and for a good reason. So both the X and the XFD models are able to operate with the Shure ShowLink access point. The FD model stands for frequency diversity, and I'll get to that when I go over frequency diversity in this video. But either the X or the FD models, both of those are able to work with the ShowLink. The regular models are not. So the ShowLink access point is a really cool device that allows you to send stuff from the receiver over to the transmitter. You don't have to go over and change anything on the transmitter. You can send these updates from the receiver using ShowLink and send it to the transmitter. So this can be helpful if you need to adjust the RF power, if the performer goes too far away, or you need to adjust the gain on the fly or something like that. There will be links down below in the description to find out more info about ShowLink if you're interested. So what's really cool about the ShowLink is that if you get interference, you can adjust it, change to a new channel, and it will update the transmitter. The thing that's really cool about this though is that there is the Shure Spectrum Manager, the AD600, and this is meant to work with the Shure Axient Digital systems, and what it does is it basically just scans the wireless RF environment and it monitors it. So it's real-time monitoring of the wireless environment. This is where it gets absolutely crazy. So you can go into the settings on the frequency server and set that to the AD600. So what that's going to do, it's going to use the Spectrum Manager to automatically assign a new frequency if interference is detected. So what's going to happen is if you're in automatic mode and you have ShowLink and the Spectrum Manager, if you get interference on the channel that you're on, what's going to happen is the receiver is going to go, oh, we have received interference. It will go to the spectrum manager to find a clear signal. The spectrum manager will send a clear channel to the receiver, and then the show link will send that new channel to the transmitter. So if you get interference, everything just updates and you're now on a clear channel. That's unbelievable, and that's incredibly helpful for preventing interference. Can you see why this was used by the Super Bowl and Justin Timberlake tours and stuff like that? It's pretty amazing, and there is actually one level higher than that, and that's with the XFD models with frequency diversity, and I'll go over that when I get to the frequency diversity part in the video. So this is cool, unregistered transmitter action. So remember at the beginning where it said, warning, you have an unregistered transmitter is being picked up here. There's a different Axient transmitter that is being picked up. I could set it to warn, which is what happened when we first did the setup, or you can set it to block. If you set it to block, it basically just treats it as interference. You can also set allow, it doesn't matter, it won't even warn you if an unregistered transmitter is being sent on that channel. But for me, I'm actually gonna set it to block. I think that actually makes the most sense for what I'm doing. But you can set it to warn, block, or off if you prefer. Frequency server, this only applies if I'm using the Shure Spectrum Manager, which I don't have one, so it won't even let me change it. But if I had a Spectrum Manager plugged into it, you would be able to see and set this to the Spectrum Manager. And again, I will have more resources and videos and articles about that down below in the description. So next up is frequency diversity. So you have combining and selection. Selection is the first option. That's to be used with 2 of the body packs. This does actually work with the AD models as well as the ADX models. So again, there will be details down below in the description if you want to find out more about this. But this can be helpful, especially if you use like a Y cable for like one lavalier mic or something like that, and then you're transmitting to 2 different systems. So if you do get interference with one of the channels, the other one is still there picking up clear audio. So that is pretty cool. But to me, the big one is the combining mode. Now this is only available with the XFD models. Remember that XFD stands for frequency diversity. So any of the transmitters that have XFD models are transmitting on 2 separate frequencies. Do keep in mind this will take up 2 channels on the Axient. Channels 1 and 2, and then channels 3 and 4 will be used for the frequency diversity mic. So you can either use 4 different mics, or you can use 2 different frequency diversity mics on the quad receiver. Can you imagine how difficult this is to take down a system like this? You're transmitting on 2 different frequencies. One of them gets interference. The other one is still working just fine. The spectrum manager updates that first frequency and then sends that over to the transmitter via the show link. One of them goes out, it automatically updates to a new clean channel while the other one is still transmitting. And then if the other one got interference, it would just repeat the process over and over again. I mean, nothing is truly bulletproof. You can still have bad antenna placement and stuff like that. But as far as just RF and wireless frequencies, it's almost impossible to take down a wireless mic with this setting. That's insane reliability for a wireless mic. I don't know if it gets any better than that. And if you have made it this far, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. It truly does help out the channel and feed the YouTube algorithm gods, so I would sincerely appreciate it. This one is really cool, the Talkswitch output routing. There is a Talkswitch that you can get, and it does only work with the X and XFD systems, but it is a really cool feature. What you can do is you can go in here and you can say when it's normal, when it's basically not being pushed, how do you want to route it? And when it is being pressed, how do you want to route it? So the way that I would do this, if I had one of these, is I would turn the TRS off when it's in normal mode, and then when it's being pressed, I would turn the XLR off. So I would use this as like a talkback system. When you're singing into the microphone, it goes out the XLR output, and then when you push on the talkback switch, it switches to the TRS output, which goes to a different output, which would likely go to our in-ear monitors. So the singer or front person or whoever can say, hey, skip this song. Hey, we need to extend by 10 minutes or whatever you need to do to communicate. If you're not familiar with the talkback mic setup, I do have a video going over that. To me, this would be the holy grail of it because you literally have the switch on the mic itself. That's incredibly helpful for setting up a talkback. And also, of course, you have AS3 and Dante routing as well. Such cool features. These 3, I think, make the Axient some of the most powerful. All right, now we're into the general settings. So just push exit to get to the main screen here, and then push the jog wheel, and we're going to go to device configuration. So device RF, when you're in here, you can set the RF band. My wireless transmitters operate in the G57 band, so that's what I'm going to set this to. This is the legal frequency range in the United States where I'm from anyways. That's what I'd want to set it to. You also have this handy button where you can push info, and it'll tell you a little bit of details about the band, or you can just set it back to frequency ranges. So I could change it to some slightly different ones. Based on which country you're playing in, you might be able to change those, which is really nice. But again, I'm in the United States, so G57 band is the one I'm going to go over. Remember, I do have that video on groups, channels, and bands if you don't understand that. Encryption, you can turn encryption on or off, so the signal will be encrypted so that no one can accidentally listen in. This is helpful for conferences or events or something like that where you don't want anyone to listen in on a conversation, especially for speaking, so that can be helpful. For transmission mode, you have standard mode, and then you have high density mode. So most people will probably leave it in standard mode. However, high density mode is great if you have a ton of wireless that you need to transmit at once, especially in a crowded RF environment. So in normal mode, you can fit 17 wireless within a 6 megahertz bandwidth. Again, that is always going to depend on the wireless environment, of course, but you can fit 17 channels of wireless within 6 megahertz range. So between 470 and 476, you can fit 17 wireless. High density mode will take that up to an insane 47 wireless within a 6 megahertz tuning bandwidth. That's absolutely crazy that you can fit that much wireless into such a small space. So instead of just having to span the channels a distance of 350 kilohertz apart, which is what happens in normal mode. In high density mode, you only have to space them about 125 kilohertz apart. That is my understanding of it. Again, check the links down below if you're interested in finding out more. And do keep in mind, this will make the range a little bit less. You've set it to 2 milliwatts of RF power. That will reduce the range. However, you can also fit more wireless at once, which is really, really helpful for crowded RF environments, especially if you have a ton of wireless all at once. And the next option in the menu is about Quadversity mode. And this is only available on the quad receivers. This is not available on the dual receivers. So this is used to have a massive range of coverage of your wireless systems because you can use 4 different antennas placed all over the venue that you're at. This is helpful to have a microphone that can be picked up on stage as well as backstage, so 2 separate locations, or you could use it in something like a massive football stadium where you have 1 antenna on each end, each corner of the stadium. So no matter where you are, the wireless will still be picked up. Just know that this will take the 4 channels and set it into 2 channels. And then on channels 1 and 3, antennas A and B will be seen on those channels. But then channels 2 and 4 will show you the RF signal strength on the antennas on C and D. But that is very helpful if you need to have 1 microphone or 2 microphones cover a very large range, especially if you're moving around a stadium or something like that. Again, you can check out the links down below in the description to check out more videos on Quadversity. Next up, we have custom groups. So in here, you can create your own group channels. So if you know exactly what channels you want to operate on, or you know in a certain city that you're on tour for, you know ahead of time what frequencies you want to set, you can do that here. So under group U1, channel 1, I can manually set the frequency to whatever I want and then hit the next channel. Group user 1, channel 2, I can set to another channel, and so on and so forth. I'm just going to cancel that. Antenna bias, if you're using this with active antennas, you can turn it on here. But since I am using this with just the passive half-wave antennas, I'm going to have that off. TV format, most of you will have this on no TV. In the United States, this TV format is 6. There's also 6 megahertz in Japan. Some countries have 7 or 8 megahertz. You can set that here. Most people are going to leave this on no TV. That's a pretty advanced setting. All right, next up is device audio. This is where you get into the digital stuff, the AES3 and the Dante setup. Again, I personally have not used those, but this is where you would go to set all this up. So you can set the AES3 rate to 48 kilohertz or 96 kilohertz. Here's all the Dante setup, which again, I'm not as familiar with, so I'm not going to go over this. But to use Dante, this is where you go to do all the setup for that. Device ID, you can just change the device ID name. I just left it on what it came as, but I could call this something else if I wanted to. I'm personally okay with just leaving this as is. Network configuration, this is where you start to get it set up for Shure Wireless Workbench. It's not what this video is about. However, I'm definitely interested in doing a video on Wireless Workbench sometime in the future. If you're interested in a video about that, leave a comment down below. If I get enough comments, I will definitely do one. Next up, going down to locks. So this is pretty cool. I can lock the power switch. So watch, when I flip the power switch, it doesn't turn off. So no one can accidentally turn the power switch off. So the power will never die. Or you'd have to unplug it in order to get it to turn off. That's pretty helpful. You can also set the front panel to locked. And that way, if I started messing around with anything in here, it would say front panel is locked and I'm not able to adjust anything. I like those unlocked personally. The fan, you can set it to automatic, or you can just turn it on and just have it always going. I just have it on automatic. some display adjustments, adjust the brightness, you can invert the colors, and you can say have the display go to sleep after a certain number of seconds. The firmware update, so you plug in via Ethernet cable and connect to your computer, and you can see if you have updates. And you download the updates to the receiver and the transmitters into the receiver itself, and then you sync over infrared, and it will send the firmware updates to your wireless mics and your body packs. I actually did that as I was putting this video together. I noticed that I needed to update the firmware, and I did that before this video came out. Pretty cool that you can update the microphones over infrared. Going down, you can save some user presets. I can save this entire preset. I haven't used this, I actually do need to, but I can just call this whatever. I'll just call this user 1. And now everything is saved. So just for example, I'll show you, you can see that the acoustic guitar gain is at -14. I'll go in here and change that around to 18. Again, I would change a bunch of other things as well, but just to show you as an example. Now when I go to restore user preset, I say I want to open user number 1 preset, hit enter, the system reboots completely. And you can see when I click the acoustic channel, it's set back to -14 and everything is back to where I saved it. Pretty helpful. You can also do a factory reset, which I'm not going to do. And you can see the about with like firmware and stuff like that. There you go. That is the receiver. All of that for just the receiver. Now onto the transmitters. Okay, whether it's the microphone or the body pack, they're very, very similar. I'll show you first on the microphone though. So I'm gonna open up this cover. You can see the battery in here. This does take either AA batteries or a specific type of battery. I do like the specific type of batteries because then it gives you an exact indicator of how much battery life you have, not just bars. And I'll address that here a little bit later. But you have this little switch right here. Swipe to the right to enter, swipe to the left to exit, and then you can go up and down to get through the menu stuff. So you can scroll up and down and see different display screens of group and channel, or frequency or the device ID and stuff like that. I personally like it with the name the most. So swiping over, I'm going to go into the radio menu first. Frequency, I can manually set the frequency here, just like I did on the receiver. So I can go to a different group channel or manually set the frequency by itself. Next option is power. So this is the RF power. You have 3 different modes. You have 10 milliwatts, which is normal. You could set it to low to only 2 milliwatts. And you can also set it to high for a 35 milliwatt setting. On the FD system, the XFD system, you do have an optional high power mode to set it to 50 milliwatts. So based on the distance that you're going, you could set the RF power here. Scrolling down, we have the RF output on or off. So I could mute this really quick, and if you watch the RF meter on the receiver, as soon as I set it to mute, the RF disappears completely. So it's just a quick RF mute. And that's it for radio. For the next menu is audio offset. This is the mic offset, which I demoed earlier, but it's basically just adjusting the gain. So if I need to set it up, I can. It goes up as high as 21 decibels, and I can turn it down as low as 12 decibels. I just leave this on Unity personally. Mute, this is interesting. So you can set it so that the power switch, when you flip it, it just mutes it instead of turns it off. That can be definitely helpful. So if I enable that, now when I flip the switch, instead of turning it off, it just mutes the audio. And it actually does let me know on the receiver that the transmitter audio is muted. So it doesn't power it off, it just mutes the audio. Next up, we have the tone generator. Remember that the receiver has a tone generator. However, I think it's more valuable to have the tone generator from the transmitter, because then you could walk around the venue that you're at, have the tone generator going, and if it cuts out at all, you can hear it instantly. You can walk around to see if there's any parts where you will get signal dropouts. Very, very helpful. And again, you can set the frequency to 400 or 1000, and you can set the level on here, and you can see the level meter going up on the receiver. Very, very helpful for checking the environment for any sort of dropouts at different places in the venue. And the last menu is utilities. And here you can change the device ID name. This is why mine is named Mic 1. Yours will be AD2 or AD2X or whichever one you have. I just changed this to Mic 1. You can change it to whatever you would like to call it. Locks, same idea. You can also lock the power or the menu or both. So if you enable the power, now you can see if I try to turn it off, it does not turn off at all. You don't want to be providing sound for the CEO of a company and they accidentally bump it and then look at you going, what happened to the mic? So that can be definitely helpful. Marker is really cool. So this will drop a marker in Wireless Workbench. So as you're using Wireless Workbench, if this is enabled, you push enter and it will drop a marker from where you're at. And it's definitely helpful for just doing some RF analysis. Really cool that that's an option. Scrolling down, you can see battery. And again, I have the specific battery, so it tells me exactly how much time I have left. It's accurate within 15 minutes. The health of the battery, how many times I've used it, the temperature, and so on and so forth. Scrolling down, you see the about, so you can see what type it is. You get some more details about it, the firmware that that it's on, and you can also reset everything as well. The only thing different with the body packs, you open it up and you can see you have down, up arrows, and then enter and exit buttons. The only thing that's different is under audio, you have an option for pad. You can either have that off or set a -12 pad to it, and you can also change the polarity to positive or negative. All right, we did it. That's all the menu options in the transmitter and the receiver. All right, you're still here. So let's go over the different options and configurations and pricing of all the different Axient units. I will have links available down below in the description for all of these. Just so you know, using those links is a free way to support the channel at no extra cost to you. This video did take quite a while to put together. So using those links is a free way to support the channel. If you've enjoyed this and if you do decide that this is right for you, using those links is a great way to support the channel and what I'm doing. So I would appreciate it. So first off with the receivers, if you get the dual receiver, that's going to run you about $3,500. And if you do want to use it as a quad receiver, that's going to run you about $7,200. They do also have this 2-channel portable one. This is mostly used for film and stuff like that, but very nice. And that one is about $2,500. As far as the body pack, the AD1 is about $889 as of time of shooting. And if you do get the ADX1, that is a little over $1,600. As of the time of shooting, there is not an FD system for the body pack. Those are only for the handhelds. As far as the handheld mics, the standard Shure SM58, the AD2 model is $990, the ADX2 model is $1,780, and the ADX2FD with the frequency diversity is about $2,500. So you can see it's about $800 more to go to the X model, and it's about $1,500 more to go to the XFE model. So the prices from there do just go up based on the mic that you use. You have the option of the Beta 58, the Beta 87A or C, which is one of my favorite mics. It's actually one of the ones that I use. You have the KSM 8, the KSM 9, the new KSM 11. There's also the VP68, which I honestly had never heard of. But prices just depend on which mic you get. And again, add $800 to go to the X model and add about $1,500 to go to the XFD model. There also is the micro transmitter. This one is used on like film sets or on stage and stuff like that, where you don't want people to see the transmitter, and that one runs $2,700. There is also a new model that is a clip-on, so you can add it to any microphone that you want, so you can use it with a specific microphone. That's a little over $1,000. As far as the accessories, I do highly recommend that you get the SB900 battery. Those are about $100 each. They are rechargeable, and they give you detailed battery life reading. It is definitely nice to have. They do also have the dual dock station for a little over $200, and this is really nice to charge the batteries because you can just put them in as is. You can either put in the microphone or the body pack, or you can take the battery out and charge it in there. And if you need more than two, obviously you can connect them together. You are able to connect them together pretty easily. There is also an option for a battery rack charger. This is having them in a rack, which can be really helpful, especially for big tour rigs. So that runs about $668, and then each module will be about $120 per battery that you want to charge. If you are interested in that Talkswitch, that runs about $330. That is only compatible with the X and the XFD model. The show link, which is incredibly helpful, is just over $500. Again, that also only works with the ADX and the ADX-FD models. And then you have the AD600 Spectrum Manager, which is going to cost you about $5,500. And that paired with the show link, paired with the X or XFD models, is what's going to give you the ability to automatically change channels if any sort of interference is detected. Also, a lot of people using Axient are going to use more than just 4 systems, in which case you're going to want to look into some sort of antenna distribution, which I'll also have links down below as well. All those links will be down below in the description. Once again, using those links is a free way to support the channel at no extra cost to you. Obviously, the Shure Axient Digital system is a very high-end wireless system. Is this system meant for and targeted towards bar bands? No. Do I bring the system when I play bar shows? No. Do I bring the system when I play high-end festivals or high-end corporate events? Yes. And that is why I like that they have the AD model, the ADX model, and the ADXFD model. The AD model, which is the one that I've been demoing in this video, is the lowest grade level of the Holy Grail Axient Digital. I say lowest grade because it's still absolutely an incredible system. With the Axient Digital system, with the AD receivers, you still get the benefits of a massive tuning bandwidth. You basically will always be able to find a clear signal in there. If you do happen to get interference, it's a very quick process to change the channel and scan and set it to the new channel. You still get all the other features with it. However, if you do need that mission critical wireless, You can get the ADX models, get the show link, and get the spectrum manager, and that will basically be very, very difficult to take down that wireless mic. And again, if you want to go even one step above that, you can get the ADX FD models with the frequency diversity, with the show link, with the spectrum manager. Nothing's impossible, but it would be very, very difficult to take down a microphone like that. That's absolutely incredible for mission critical gigs. That's why it was used at the Super Bowl and with Justin Timberlake and a ton of other touring artists. When I've used the Shure Axient Digital system, I've literally never had a problem with it. So I actually saved up for a long, long time. I was saving up to get the Shure ULX-D system. I do have a video on that if you're interested in checking it out. It is the system that is the level below the Shure Axient Digital system. Long story short, about 3 months before I had enough money to buy the ULX-D system, I got an offer where I could buy the Shure Axient Digital for less than the price of the ULX-D system. I couldn't pass that up, and I put it on my credit card. Is it overkill for what I do? Probably. Am I sad that I have it? No, absolutely not. I definitely do not bring this to bar gigs, but I am fortunate enough that I do get to play some pretty cool big festivals for larger crowds and stuff like that. I also provide sound at higher end corporate events as well. At those high end festivals that I'm playing, it's incredibly nice to have these very reliable wireless systems, especially in an environment like that where there's going to be much more chances of RF interference. There's definitely a market out there for this system, and that's why I'm glad they kind of have the 3 different tiers of what you can get with the Axient Digital system. If you want the best and the most reliable wireless out there, and your budget allows it, you're not going to be sad with having this system for sure. And don't forget, if you did find this video helpful, do me a favor and hit the like button. It truly does help out the channel and feed the YouTube algorithm gods. Hitting the like button is like having the AD model. Hitting like and subscribe is like having the ADX model. And hitting like and subscribe and using the links down below in the description to support the channel is like having the ADX FD model with the show link and the spectrum manager. If you do want to see my wireless system buying guide, you can check out that video as well by clicking up above or down below. And don't forget to check out my Shure Wireless playlist series where I start from the entry-level BLX series and finish it off with this video of the high-end Axient Digital so you can see which one is right for you. You can check out both of those videos by clicking the links on your screen now, and I will also have the links available down below in the description. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.